Perfection series presents choosing the Perfect Yukon Rifle. Things to consider. Is it powerful enough for bear defense and the biggest animals you are about to hunt? Is it light enough and compact enough to carry in all the different types of carry that you're going to do? Is it durable? Is it flat shooting? And if it is all these things, it's going to bring home the bacon for you. Welcome to the Yukon. So I've done a whole series on axes and knives, and haven't talked too much about rifles. And this has been my friend since 1989 when I purchased it. It was brand new, basically unused condition, and now it's got knocks and scars all over the place. It's been in boats and on skidoos, and it's probably given us thousands of pounds of meat over that time, dozens of caribou. And this is a 350 Remington Magnum in a Remington 660. And despite all of that knocking about, this is the last 3-round group I shot with it. And that's with 250 grain Barnes Originals with 748. And I always get basically one hole at 100 yards. I very often get that. I always get under an MOA. With a variety of loads, but those 250 grain bullets it really likes. So I've really enjoyed this rifle. A few specs on it. It is 38.5 inches long, so it's a carbine. Despite the fact that it's got a 20-inch barrel, it's got a very short action. These 600 actions were very, very short. As short as you could get. You can load out to 2.825, which means you lose a little bit of powder capacity, but you still have lots of power. People consider the kick on these as very vicious, but as here with a sling and with the scope on it, it's 7 pounds 11.5 ounces. So it's heavy enough with this laminated stock and well shaped to take the recoil. It's actually a fairly easy gun to shoot. It's an easy gun to shoot well. It's got the lovely Remington trigger. I've really enjoyed this rifle. However, I've shot it a lot, and one of the things that I'm finding, or I found in Nunavut, where I first used this rifle, at long range, it shoots flat enough to hit. It's accurate enough to be a good long range rifle, but the bullets, once you get out past 300 yards, don't open up super well. A lot of the 35 caliber bullets. The partitions do, but you start losing velocity. You start dipping below 2,000 feet per second. And at long range, it just doesn't quite have enough velocity to open up the bullets. So I went to a 358 Norma, and what I found with the 358 Norma is when you've got the same weight of a gun, recoil gets out of the kind of place that I would like it to be. So I'm trying to reduce my amount of rifles, and I'm trying to figure out what is the ultimate, one rifle for the Yukon, where you would use caribou, deer, elk, moose, potentially even bison. This is good for all those rifles, but when you get to caribou, it's a little bit short on the range. It's a 250, 300 yard gun, tops. That'll do 90% of your hunting, but it won't do 100%. Especially when you get a little bit more used to long range shooting. So that is a really great gun, but it's not perfect. You'll see a family resemblance. This is another Remington 660. And again, I bought this one shortly after getting the 350 because I ran into those range problems, and this doesn't have those range problems. This was a much maligned cartridge, the 6.5 Remington Magnum. One of my favorite cartridges. There it is, loaded with a 130 grain TSX bullet for moose, and at the back I have 130 grain Accubonds, which just go forever, and that's my caribou load, and they both shoot in the same spot. This has a Redfield 2-7 with AccuTrack, which actually, for whatever reason, I was lucky enough to have the right turret to match that right out to 500, 600 yards. So this has been rebarreled, and I rebarreled it with a 23-inch barrel. The only thing I can say wrong with these 660s is they originally had a 20-inch barrel. And this 23-inch barrel gets more velocity, enough that you're perfectly tracked here. So I'm really happy with that. Interestingly enough, this is a Pac North Supermatch barrel, and it's almost as accurate as the original Remington barrel. I don't know what it was about these Remington barrels that they made back in the 60s, but boy, they sure knew how to make barrels. So this 6.5 is about equivalent to a 270 Winchester, improved a little bit maybe. It's been a great gun. I'm not scared using this on moose with the 130 grain TSX bullets. So with the 2 bullets, I pretty much have the whole span of what this can be used. You're left with not a whole lot of diameter even after expansion. Although the velocity, that's a 130 TSX bullet. But the velocity gives you pretty good killing power. Can't use this gun for bison, doesn't have quite enough power. And also, one of the things you find in caribou country is very close proximity of bears, including big grizzly bears. And this gun, I wouldn't be too scared as a defensive rifle if I was attacked by a polar bear, but you could probably do better than a 6.5 Remington. So it's got the speed, it's got the long range. It lacks a little bit of horsepower for the really, really big stuff. This is a Browning A-bolt, and they don't make this particular model anymore. It's stainless with great synthetic stock, which is camouflaged. It was on sale because it's in a caliber, which I think is one of the great calibers, but it's unsung. And that's the 325 Winchester Short Magnum. And here's that cartridge. There it is, loaded with a 180 TSX bullet, and that's an MOA bullet. And for caribou, I use the 175 grain Sierras, and that's a sub MOA bullet in this rifle. I like it a little bit better for caribou. Same point of impact, right out to 400 yards. I have on this a Burris 2-7 with the ballistic track, and again, it's perfectly matched. I think I got lucky. These are not super hot loads. These are only going about 2,900 feet per second in the 180, 175 versions. But for whatever reason, that really matches this right out to 500 yards. I'm within a couple of 3 inches. It's got a little bit more of a diameter, and this 325 shoots about as flat as the 6.5, hits about as hard as the 350. So it really puts both of those into the same package. It's exactly the same weight as my 660. With this, whatever reason, that worked out within a few ounces. And it's a little longer. It doesn't have the extremely compact short action of the 660. So this is 42.75 with a 23-inch barrel, where a 660 with the same barrel is 41.5. So you have another 1.5 inches or so of length, but it's still a nice handy length. About my only complaint with this rifle is the width. The width of the butt pad means that you don't have a whole lot of surface area to take the recoil, and this little gun dishes out a lot of recoil. It kicks more than the 350. It kind of puts the two guns, the 350 and the 6.5, together. This gun was really criticized. A lot of people wanted it to be 338 rather than 325 is the same as an 8mm. But 8mm bullet, there's lots of them. It gives it a little more horsepower than a 300 Winchester Short Magnum, and I think this is getting pretty close to ultimate. The other thing I'll say is having a stainless firearm is just so handy, especially when you're out in a boat. So this gun is getting to be near the ultimate of what you could expect for being in the Yukon. and I could quite probably happily hunt the rest of my life just with this gun. It allows me to think about selling some firearms. So thanks for watching. Okay, that's the 225 Barnes X, going about 2650. And I'm going to just put here, right beside it, the 180 TSX out of the 8mm. You can see it gives up a little diameter, but it also has more speed and creates a very, very similar amount of destruction in animal tissue. So it's a very, very good caliber, this 8mm. It's not quite a 350, but it's close to being a 350, and it's going a little faster. So that balances things out pretty nicely.